Sherry Damaris, and welcome to Macro Magic. Today I have with me Gene Ang, and we're zooming him in from California. And he's an energy healer and has quite an interesting story to tell us of how he got started. He was formerly very good in academics and went to a lot of Ivy League schools and studied science. So welcome, Gene.
Hi, Sherry, and hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here.
So happy to have you. Tell our studio audience, how did you get started in energy work? And how did you transition from more of an academic field over to working with energy?
Yes, I was always interested in consciousness and healing, and so I pursued more in the biomedical sciences to begin with in my undergraduate degree, which in Stanford was in human biology and philosophy and religious studies. So already in my undergraduate work, I was starting to try to combine maybe a more soul level or consciousness level aspect of healing.
Mm.
And also in California, I think there was that opportunity just in the milieu to absorb some of this framework that included more than just the physical body in healing. I continued to do that line of work in graduate school in neurobiology. But after the completion of that degree, I started to work with energy healing teachers, both just as mentoring as well as in more formal sort of training classes. And that was during my postdoctoral fellowship. And then after my postdoctoral fellowship, I took the step to just do solely more energy healing work, as well as teaching classes in the interface between science and spirituality.
I find it so amazing that I know you work with Susan Duvall and you've gone on a lot of her trips before, and you get such a large audience of people to come and help them, meditate in Sedona and go to Egypt. Um, but you also do long distance healing. And I think sometimes when people are first introduced to all of this, they get a little skeptical, like, what is it and how does it work? Maybe you can
Mhm.
explain to us, exactly how do you go about healing, and what do you do in terms of sending energy to people?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think now the sort of the wave that's been coming through in the holistic community in terms of its interaction with science was first meditation and yoga, and I think more people are understanding this, kind of embracing it and practicing it. And in terms of science, they have more rigorous studies on meditation and its benefit. Energy healing, I think, is you could maybe say a decade behind in terms of the research, scientific research, and in terms of having a framework that traditional science will accept, and then using methods that could at least study scientifically energy healing. So maybe that will come along and be more accepted at that level. But I think people in general are now moving to energy healing as a valid form of self improvement or self inner work. And the model that's usually used is that you have multiple dimensions of yourself. So science is very accurate and good for studying the physical dimension of our being. But many people in the holistic field know or have experienced other aspects of themselves. So these more multidimensional models would then suggest that we also have what's called an energy body or an energy field.
Mm-hmm.
And this energy field has been studied in many traditional healing paths and spiritual paths, and they usually call it such things as chi or prana or ruah in Hebrew. And this sort of more etheric energy or bioenergy sort of envelops our physical body. And you could call this the life force energy. And most people are familiar with this just when they meet people or they see living things. You can kind of tell the difference between a very vibrant flower, for example, and one that maybe had been cut and sort of been in the vase for 7 days. It has a different look to it in this energetic quality. So when an energy healer like myself, if they're doing it in person, or like you mentioned, even in a this kind of unique case with energy healing, you can do it by distance. The idea is that we're channeling or facilitating this subtle energy on the pranic level to the energy body of the person. And this energy body interacts with their physical body and kind of leads to changes such as health changes and benefit in their physical as well as emotional, mental bodies. Now, the way that can work distantly is the energy body doesn't follow the physical physics or space time physics. It's beyond this space time realm. So when you think of someone in terms of the energy transfer, it actually occurs instantaneously outside of the space time realm. And then it kind of re enters the space time realm when it starts to affect the physical body. And so that's the big step in terms of science. The framework is much different. But that's how distance healing is able to occur without needing to be in person.
I find it so fascinating in macrobiotics. We actually read it's called Oriental Diagnosis, where I can look at people and sort of pick up their energy and know which organs are blocked or which meridians aren't working functionally. So I think that sort of goes along with the same thing, looking at the chi or the prana of the person, comparing a live plant to a dead plant and things like that. You can actually feel the energy of the person and see if it's strong and moving and sort of flowing in a smooth like river like flow, or stagnant or sort of disrupted.
Mm.
And I find it really fascinating, like you said, that you do not need, it doesn't work on the same level as the physical level, that you can transfer it through time and space.
Yes, exactly. Those are great examples. And the one point that I think that you brought up that's really, I think, interesting to maybe the viewers and to people in general is that we inherently are sensitive to this level of reality starting from when we're children. So children are already very sensitive to that. And then maybe perhaps it's maybe not as much now, but in the past it might have been somewhat educated out of us
Mm-hmm.
just because it wasn't acknowledged. And then you kind of regain those skills again, maybe later on when you kind of have the ability to explore those arenas on your own, or other frameworks that accept this intuitive knowledge. But this ability to sense energy, like you're pointing out, I think everyone has is sort of, you might call it your gut feeling. And it can be, it's sort of distinct from channeling energy, which was what I was describing before. And so people can really develop this to a very high degree, like you said, can really know how people are feeling, whether it's without them saying anything, or like empaths, or also not even being in the same physical presence, they can already tell how people are doing.
And I know that you've run some trips. We're going to show some pictures of
Great.
groups that you've taken. What do you do with, here's a group in Egypt. What type of work do you do with them while you're on the trip with them and leading the trip?
Yeah, just kind of dovetailing on our conversation, like now moving to like the environment. So with the sacred site trips, the idea is that certain environments, their energy, both their physical presence, but as well as what we're calling this subtle world, or starting from this energetic world, but you could also call there's an emotional and mental dimension to a person as well as locations. It's sort of embedded with this sort of unique energy and information at certain sites. And people are very sensitive to that too. Maybe that's why they choose to live in certain areas. But there are well known places, you could call them power spots on the planet, that when people go there, not only physically are they interesting just based on their history, but they have an energetic quality that can awaken. It's sort of like bathing in that energy that can awaken our own energy field, and also awaken certain information that's deeper at the mental, emotional, and you could say spiritual levels. And so that's really the purpose of having these trips. And I could describe with kind of the activities, but that's the overall reason.
And I love the one of Sedona. I've been there a couple times, and it's so easy to meditate there. And I know that some of the hikes your meditations go more out and some more in, the spiral, and some go both directions. So I know that there's energy, it's sort of like acupuncture points on the earth. And many, many thousands of years ago, when they built pyramids, they built them on those energy vortexes. But then there's the theory that the earth shifted a little bit, and some of those vortexes, the energy, is not as strong as it used to be.
Oh yes, yes, that's exactly right. That's also been following the same models and experiences. And maybe when we do get to those pictures, like you said, these upflow vortexes in Sedona kind of like bring your energy up, and they're very nice to meditate in, and you have very like high, open experiences. And there's also downflow vortexes like Boyden Canyon. I don't think I have a picture of that one, but they kind of bring you more internally, and so you can work on like more deeper issues within yourself with that energy flow.
So you're actually facilitating these groups and leading those meditations. Are you working one-to-one with the people as well, or are you just guiding them as a group to meditate and sort of get in touch with the energy fields at these
Yes, we do
locations?
kind of both on those trips. It's mostly group work, and then like in the evenings, there may be individual sessions if people want to do more individual sort of counseling or energy healing work. And it's nice to be in that environment where you can kind of blend the two together in this sort of what I was mentioning, like bathing in this strong energy.
And how do you meet with people individually? Do you usually do it remotely now on Zoom, or do you just do, someone calls you and you do remote healing on them? How does that work?
Mhm. Yeah, so previously, before the pandemic, it was mostly both by distance, like online in the sort of Zoom format, as well as in person when I would travel. And that's how I met Susan Duvall. Like I would come to different locations and either hold a class during the day and then healing sessions. So that would be in person. And so now, with the advent of Zoom, and also the fact that energy healing can be done by distance, it kind of works well, and can do sessions online in this conference mode.
Oh, that's so fantastic. I know after commercial break, we're going to have a long distance healing session with you live on the show. So we're looking forward to that when we come back from having our commercials. And it's so fascinating. I want to talk to you more about how this energy healing works. So thank you, Jean.
Oh, thanks, Sherry. That's great.
Why buy local? When you shop with local businesses, you're spending your money on more than just the item you're buying. You're adding a building block to your neighborhood. It starts with a single purchase, maybe a cup of coffee, groceries from a local co-op, or even a shiny new bicycle from one of the nearly 28 million small businesses nationwide. Your money doesn't stay in the till for long though. Local business owners use the money to create a lot of economic activity in your neighborhood, like buying from suppliers, many of whom are also local businesses. Paying taxes to the city, which builds and maintains the infrastructure we all rely on. Employing local workers, contributing to 65% of the net new jobs each year. Add this all together and you've got a recipe for a happier, healthier, more connected neighborhood. Now that's an investment worth making.
Hi, I'm Sherry Damaris. Welcome back to Macro Magic. I have with me Gene Ang, and we were talking about distance healing and his work during all his trips to very high energy spots across the world. And Jean, I know that you said you have 2 potential trips coming up. Did you want to share that with our viewers?
Yes, we have a trip planned in May, as long as all things go well with the development of travel. And that's to Mount Kailash, which is a sacred mountain in Tibet, that's well known as a pilgrimage site and very powerful in terms of connecting with sort of the inner energies of the planet and beyond the planet. And then later on in the end of October, there's a trip planned to New Zealand, and that's more a shamanically based trip to connect with the ancestor spirits there, as well as our own ancestral spiritual
I want to
line.
hop the airplane right now and go.
Yes.
They sound wonderful. Anyway, we were going to have you do a long distance healing for our viewers. Do we need to go into meditation mode or anything
Sure.
specific?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things, and then
Okay.
yeah, people can however they like to receive it. So if you have received energy healing or meditate, then yes, you can sort of more enter that internal state of consciousness and just notice whatever you notice. You may feel vibrations or colors or lights. You also may not notice anything, but the energy will still be working, just in case that happens. If you're new to this, then you can just close your eyes if you are able to, and then just notice whatever you feel. And afterwards, we can talk about some of the effects of the session.
Okay.
And you'll hear me, I'm going to use what's called the Arcturian healing method frequencies. It's just a modality that I created and that I facilitate those types of sessions. You'll hear me say the name of the healing energy, and then I'm usually quiet while it's being channeled. And then every so often you'll hear me chime in again if we switch to another energy. All right, it'll be less than 5 minutes, just so that or maybe less than 3 minutes. Okay, and so we're starting. So we're channeling the Arcturian dimensional bridge healing frequency to everyone who's watching the program, either live or if you're also watching it as a recording, you'll be receiving it. You can just notice whatever you notice. Now we're switching to healing energy called the Arcturian Divine Fire healing frequency. We're continuing with a few more seconds, utilizing the Arcturian Divine Fire healing frequency. And that completes the short healing session. You can come back to your body, and when you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
That feels so relaxing. Oh my gosh. The whole studio went quiet. It was really great. So we have a photo of you with an orb. Did you want to explain what orbs are or how they work?
Sure, sure. Yes, if you're seeing the photo now, orbs are manifestations that occur, light manifestations that occur in photos. Uh, they can be created just by natural things in the environment. Of course, that's not so much what we're interested in terms of this sort of spiritual recording. Like a dust particle or a water droplet could create that. But it also can be created by an energetic phenomena. And a lot of orb researchers, particularly when they catch these on video, it's a little bit more convincing, believe that that's a manifestation from another dimension. It could be this etheric dimension that we're mentioning, or the astral dimension, which is the emotional mental dimension. And it's a consciousness, or you could say a spirit, condensing its frequency down and then utilizing basically what they call the electrons in this physical dimension to create a wavelength that the digital cameras can capture. It comes back in what's called the infrared channel of the digital camera, and then you'll see this like light ball show up in certain locations. So the one that I'm showing, if you're seeing that, was taken in Sedona, and you can see it's shown up like right in front of my forehead, or they call that the third eye area. And what's really unique about that photo is first, it's part of a larger photo that I cropped, and that's pretty much the only orb there. So if it was dust, you might have, you see like just random orbs all over the place. The second thing is, for a month, I had been doing a third eye meditation every morning for an hour, right, like putting my awareness right there. So it sort of was very highly coincidental and meaningful. So that's kind of one example of an orb photo.
Yeah, I think people, we just filmed a show on EMFs and dirty electricity, and it's hard for people to imagine things that they don't see or feel right away. But that we are energy, we're made up of energy, and there's energy fields around us. And oftentimes my cooking teacher, Michio Kushi, would explain that, if you're sitting in a chair and you leave, and if you've been in that chair for a long time, people can still feel your presence in that chair because it's your energy field still that, or, with animals too. If animals come in a room and you can actually feel the animal if they've left the room. So it's good to start, understanding that we are just not physical beings, that there's layers of other dimensions to us, which your work does very well. And I think with your academic background, you have a very eloquent way of explaining how that is, which is very helpful. Plus you have very relaxing energy, which helps too, I think, with the energy healing. How can people get in touch with you if they want a session, if they want to join a trip? How can they reach you?
Yes, I have a website. It's www, and then it's Gene Ang, all in one word, GENEANG, and all my information and schedule is on that.
Great.
But,
And so you'll do Zoom calls, or you'll do just remote phone calls for your energy healing?
for the energy healing, Zoom calls, if that works for the people, is usually the mode, and then it could also be done also by the cell phone.
Okay, great. And anything else you want to share with our viewers about how they can increase their ability to sort of become more aware of the other dimensions and also, work on their own personal healing?
Yeah, if people wanted to, just describe that short meditation. I was doing it for an hour, but this is something you could do for 3 or 5 minutes a day. And it will develop your sensitivity that Sherry was mentioning, our ability to, sense the person's energy and even if they've left the chair, or to sense these flows inside you. So all you need to do is you can sit naturally, and then just put your awareness lightly here in between the eyebrows. So that's your focal point. And you can do that just even for 3 minutes. So you just close your eyes and then just keep your awareness here. If you start to think about whatever it might be, just bring it back here. And then if you do that, let's say for 3 minutes a day, 3 to 5 minutes a day, after probably even 7 days or a couple days, or even like if you did it for 30 days, your intuition will start to increase to a very high degree. And maybe
Yeah.
I'll keep it to that. I'm not,
One of my macrobiotic teachers used to have us tape a piece of raw brown rice to our third eye. So
Nice.
you're always feeling that area constantly.
Yes, that's great.
Any other experiences you've had with people or even animals with your work, in terms of realizing, their health has improved, or they're more aware of their surroundings, or by, using some of your techniques?
Yeah, well, I just mentioned, like you mentioned, I had come from science, which has a much more physical background, and during this transition time, I was studying a number of healing modalities, and one of the things that really convinced me was there's a modality called pranic healing, and I was doing a lot of distance healings, just like we were saying. And in that, you sweep a person's chakras. So you sweep kind of like you could call it diseased energy or unbalanced energy off the chakra first, and then you energize it with like good prana. What was happening is, as I was doing all these healings, and it would look to a physically based person that I was just sweeping the air for about whatever 20 minutes of the healing. But over time, I was getting a rash in my throat. And it was because of sweeping all this energy out of the chakras. And you do clear that from your hand. But for whatever reason, maybe I needed to show myself the reality of this. This energy was getting all the way back to my throat and kind of causing this irritation and this rash. And it was kind of a proof to me that something really was going on, even though I was gung ho and very, believed it. But that was kind of a very strong physical proof to me
It
in
was
my
like a
kind of
validation.
development.
Oh, it's so wonderful. Your work is so great, Gene, especially during this time of our pandemic and, helping the world. So please continue, and your trips sound wonderful. And it was great meeting you. And thank you so much for being on the show today. We look forward to having you on again. And, really enjoyed your work with energy and healing and your trips. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Sherry, and thank you, everyone. It was great to share these ideas with you.
Great. And I'm Sherry Damaris, and welcome, join us for another episode of Macro Magic.